I was a guy assigned by the main business to conduct an investigation, and the manager of the subsidiary sneered at me. Demoted and useless. Get me a cup of coffee. I get it. I, the demoted employee, was not the only person in the office targeted by the manager's tyranny. In the midst of all, the probe revealed certain unspoken facts about the manager. Competition shapes society. Competition permeates every aspect of life, from elementary and middle school to the workplace. Daniel Miller is my name. My age is 26. I was raised in a low-income household and have experienced that reality firsthand. But my father was a good man, too good to be true. He had little money and few days off from his job at a black corporation. He frequently filled in for his superiors and returned home late at night, even though he struggled with his own work. On his infrequent days off, he would help in the neighborhood, cleaning for free from dawn to dusk. Since I was a young child, I have observed my father doing this. He was undoubtedly a fantastic individual as a person. With a sense of philanthropy, he actively carried out good deeds and showed selfless kindness. The word saint fit him perfectly. However, nice individuals are frequently used by others. My father once lost his job because he was held accountable for a subordinate's error. He took the punishment on himself and pulled my mother and me with him, so he didn't need to take the guilt. Our family was consequently left penniless. My father's health quickly deteriorated due to the stress, and he died within a few weeks. Despite his nice nature, he was a poor parent who abandoned my mother and me. He was the first to leave this world. Such a father is not someone I respect. He treated people with dignity, put himself last, and eventually brought his family down with him. My father's portrait became a lesson on what not to do rather than a life coach. There is no benefit to philanthropy. Selfless compassion hurts not only oneself, but also those around you, because good deeds for others do not come back to oneself. We live by competing, not by supporting one another. You cannot get higher if you continue to reach out to people below. I have to go higher for my mother, who is now my only source of support. I have to make it through a cutthroat society without ruining my family the way my father did. Amidst the rows of desks in a large corporate office, workers were hard at work. Daniel, regarding the papers from the previous day, I simply sent the information. Please also review the revisions as there were some mistakes in the docs. I gave my employer the collected paperwork. Manager, Daniel, about the presentation materials I asked you to review. They're finished. Although you did a fantastic job of summarizing the key ideas, there are a lot of typos. Fix those. I've indicated them in red. Additionally, since the text is difficult to read, modify its color. My subordinate made the necessary modifications once I gave them the flagged documents. The copier is misbehaving once more, Daniel. Most likely, it's jammed. I'll be free in 12 minutes, so work on something else until then. I managed the deluge of work that was thrown at me. My father died away more than 10 years ago, and now that I'm an adult working, I dedicate myself to my profession every day in the hopes of becoming promoted. I've advanced quickly to the position of manager at the age of 26, but I'm not content with my current standing. Even if my job at a large firm has given my mother and I some financial security, it is still insufficient. It's impossible to predict when someone may pass away. I might just up and leave one day. If that occurs, I have to save as much as I can to make sure my mother doesn't suffer. I therefore want to work as hard as I can and advance as far as I can in my lively 20s. I've made it my life's work to not become like my father. Even as a working adult, that hasn't changed. The next week, I received a direct assignment after being called to the president's office, an investigation. Indeed, it's for one of our affiliate businesses. Under the pretense of an investigation, I would like you to accompany them. The president told me this when I was seated in the leather chair in his office. Why did you select me for this duty, may I ask? I currently manage important responsibilities in my department. I take pride in having a heavier workload than everyone else, even though I have fewer duties than others in higher positions. The output of the department will undoubtedly decrease if I stop working on my assignments to look into the subsidiary. Do you feel unfit for the job? To be honest, yes. I didn't hold back when I responded to the president's inquiry. I shouldn't be the one assigned to this probe given the company's general interest. Delegating it to someone else is more suitable. I understand. You're a direct individual. I'm not against that. The president seemed amused by my direct response rather than furious. But you see, I specifically want you to go on this investigation to evaluate you. Assess me. By that, what do you mean exactly? I've heard great things about what you do. Both the number and quality are outstanding. Both supervisors and subordinates think well of you. You'll probably advance to work closely with me if you stay with the organization, and that too will happen soon. I want to see if you're the proper person to work with me because of this. The president had a constant smile on his face while he detailed his plans to me. It made sense. But you don't seem convinced, do you, Daniel? As like you could see right through me, his comments caused my heart to skip a beat. Yes, if my whim causes your work to be delayed, that would be bad for your department. I recognize that. Let's present this as a chance for a promotion. I'll specifically offer you the department head post. An advancement. Becoming the department head without consulting the deputy director. I felt impelled despite the fact that it was like a carrot being dangled in front of me. The president appeared to know just the right phrases to make me feel something. Is it all right to decide on such an important position so easily? You're already qualified for that position. Assuming you are successful in this investigation, there is no reason to wait. There was more to it than what he said. Sure enough, it was too good to be true. In stories, such a quick advancement is frequently a warning sign. It is very risky to jump into an unknown hazard. I acknowledge, though, that I couldn't afford to miss this chance. Hi, I'm Daniel, and today I'm joining. It's good to meet everyone. When I introduced myself, I received sporadic, indifferent clapping. A few days later, I pretended to be a new employee and joined the subsidiary, a position I hadn't held in years. The president gave me explicit instructions to work as a new hire and not to disclose that I was there for a parent company probe. It didn't feel so much like an investigation as an espionage mission. The business lacked enthusiasm. The staff was completely worn out, and the mood was depressing. Daniel, nice to meet you. A woman who appeared to be about my age came up to me in the somewhat somber environment. Oh, my name is Nancy, and I'll be your mentor in addition to being your supervisor here. Her clothing was somewhat crumpled, and there were evident black circles under her eyes. Her words and expression betrayed her lack of confidence. I looked to my supervisor and said, "Nice to meet you, Supervisor Nancy." "Oh, you don't have to be so formal." "Most likely, we are about the same age. Daniel, may I ask what your age is?" "My age is 26. "Yes, exactly like me." Then Nancy said in a more informal tone, "You don't have to use formal language." I couldn't agree, though. "No, Supervisor Nancy, I will continue to use formal language because you are my senior and superior." "You're serious, Daniel. What is causing you to be so lazy?" The workplace was suddenly filled with a loud male voice. Everyone in the office, including Nancy, winced as though they were prey in a predator's eyes. The voice came from a burly middle-aged man who walked briskly towards us. "I apologize, Thomas, but we have a new hire today." That doesn't justify being lazy. It was the man who called, "Go back to work." With a controlling demeanor, the department head told Nancy to return to work. "You're the new guy, then?" "Yes, Daniel is my name. Good to meet you." "What have you been up to this point? Are you still dependent on your parents at this age?" "No. I used to work for one of our affiliated businesses. As I explained, I concealed the fact that I was there for an investigation, and the manager gave me a derisive sneer. Phew, so you're an incompetent who was demoted. Make sure you don't get fired if you're going to work for me. Go buy me a coffee now. I get it. I can see that this company's reality is coming to light. The bossy manager is putting a lot of pressure on the staff. This place seems to have been turned into a miniature dictatorship. This inquiry could be a little problematic. Nancy, the supervisor. Sorry, Daniel, it's you. What's going on? I want to get to work. What should I start with? As an employee, I have duties even though I'm here under the guise of an investigation. All well, I'll email you some paperwork. Could you put them together? Comprehensive. Oh, and I'm next to your desk. Feel free to ask any queries you may have. I sat at my desk, feeling a flashback to her flimsy smile. I quickly started working after taking a quick look at the documentation. After 15 minutes. Nancy, the supervisor. Hey Daniel, how are you? Are you having trouble understanding something? No, I did finish. Check it out, please. Not much time has passed. Nancy viewed the carefully organized financial paperwork on my computer with suspicion. To make it more readable, I also changed the table format. Was it really necessary? No, Daniel, it's quite beneficial. You are truly capable of working. Not enough for you to commend me, supervisor. I didn't find the task difficult because it was comparable to what I did in my prior department at the connected company. Well, for a novice, you're pretty good. Thomas, who had been listening in, cut me off as I was speaking to Nancy. You can manage this work as well, if you're that capable, right? The manager grinned smugly and thumped a massive stack of papers onto my desk. For your information, these must be completed today. If not, put in extra hours to finish them. Wait, Thomas, providing Daniel with this much work at once is. Daniel only started today. What are you, Nancy, disobeying me? No, I didn't mean that. Then stop talking and go to work. Make sure you complete this by today, rookie. After spitting out his directives, the manager went back to his desk. I leafed through the pile of papers to see what was within. The manager had thrown this task on me, and it was obviously not the type of work a novice should be undertaking. It's a nasty move, whether it's a tough initiation or harassment. Daniel, are you all right? This cannot be completed on your first day. Nancy saw my slightly furrowed brows in annoyance and said, I'll do it for you. Even if I'd overestimated her abilities, she had her own work to do, and it was impossible to take on this assignment and do everything by today. But there's no issue. I don't need an entire day to complete this amount of work. I'm done, Thomas. I gave the manager the finished stack of paperwork right before lunch. What? Don't be so dumb. Please check me if you have any doubts. The manager gave me a dubious look, but I refused to back down. His attitude changed from one of annoyance to surprise as he flipped through the paperwork. This isn't feasible. That amount could not possibly be completed today. You instructed me to complete it now. Why do you find this surprising? Stop talking. The next thing you need to do. Please, look at this document before that. He cocked his head in perplexity as I laid a piece of paper on his desk. What is this? It's a document that was included with the ones you previously provided me. You made a report, but I took the time to fix it because it had a lot of mistakes. The introduction is overly lengthy and the main ideas are unclear. For the message to be understood, it must be brief. There are numerous typos as well. You interfering. Please make the required changes by today, if at all possible, as I have indicated the corrections in red. Anger and embarrassment caused the manager's face to flush. Those below are impacted when those at the top fail to do their duties effectively. Regardless of the position, errors such as this must be called out. Pardon me, I have to go for the day. By the conclusion of my first day's regular working hours, I had already completed the chores that the manager had given me in the morning. I finished my work in the afternoon and assisted Nancy with hers. I made the decision to go since I had nothing more pressing to do. "Oh, Daniel, wait a moment." Nancy, who was preparing to go as well, cried out to me just as I was ready to leave. "After this, do you have any time? I'm able to depart without working overtime because of you. I wanted to know if you wanted to go out to dinner with me today. But if you can't, that's okay too." A dinner invitation. Outside of work, I often steer clear of interacting with coworkers. To make sure everything goes smoothly, though, this might be a chance to learn more about the job. I said, "I'd love to join you." Nancy gave me a joyful smile when I nodded. "I know a nice spot if we're going out to eat. The French eatery I choose is frequently utilized for customer entertainment. Although it's expensive, the private rooms facilitate conversation. This is the ideal source of knowledge. This property looks pricey, Nancy." "I hope I have enough money," she remarked, casting a worried glance across the lavish decor. "Don't worry about it. I'll pay. However, I picked this location because I wanted to give you a thank you. I'll talk about it. Please accept my gratitude. This is part of my job, but Nancy is unaware of it. I'm responsible for paying for it, but expenditures won't cover it." I escorted Nancy to the customary private room, but she appeared a little uncomfortable with my answer. We ordered dinner and engaged in small talk until the food arrived, since we knew it would be awkward to get right into business. "Could I ask you a question, Nancy, the supervisor? Are you unhappy with the business?" That's an unexpected query. To pretend that I have no complaints would be a lie. Every day there is overtime, the burden is heavy, and our boss is, well, you know how he is. Perhaps my clumsiness is my own fault. Nancy smiled weakly again. "Have you ever thought about quitting?" "To be honest, I've considered quitting numerous times." "I apologize. You probably didn't need to hear that, but there were much more sinister ideas than giving up." "Then why don't you quit?" I could tell Nancy wasn't feeling well from the first time I saw her. It was not in her best interest to stay employed by this organization. There would be greater benefits to changing careers. Nancy said without hesitation, "My coworkers and subordinates would have a harder time if I quit." I continued to think about them. Nancy's expression is visible to me. I had a tremendous déjà vu feeling. The eyes of someone who considered self-sacrifice as an absolute virtue and believed in living for others were the same ones I frequently saw as a child. My late father's eyes were the same. I couldn't help but furrow my brow when I realized this. I forced down the growing disdain and made an effort to remain calm. Nancy remarked, "Daniel, you're so kind," grinning. "Kind? Me?" "Yes, sincerely, you have been listening to me." I tried not to say it, but the words lingered. Looking back, I should have asked about the company, but instead I asked about her. "You also helped me with my work and showed consideration for the other employees, despite the fact that it's your first day and you don't know a lot. I can tell you're a considerate person." I was only carrying out my duties. I had no intention of showing kindness to anyone. "Then maybe being kind to others is just natural for you." I didn't understand what she was saying. I didn't mean to be nice to anyone. My interactions with individuals were limited to my work. I had forsaken needless commitment and goodwill in a competitive culture. Why do I feel so uneasy on the inside when I've never once compromised that belief? I have been working on this investigation for a week now. The investigation is going well, and I've had no issues with my daily responsibilities. I went to work this morning as usual after consulting with the accounting department about something. "Oh, good morning, Daniel." Supervisor Nancy greeted me, looking healthier now that I had cut down on her overtime. "Good morning," I said as I always do. I have been somewhat avoiding her since the supper on my first day. I can still remember what she said that day. Her casual remarks appear to go right to the core of who I am. It's unclear to me whether I fear her or feel contempt for her. With her as my mentor and our desks next to each other, I can't keep my distance, even if I would like to. What a problem. Is there a problem? I'm here to help if you need it. I mumbled a protest, and Nancy responded automatically. No, everything is all right. The source of my problems can't assist me with this. And then there was another issue. Hey, Danielle. As soon as I walked inside the office, I heard a loud voice. It was my present manager, Thomas. What is it, Thomas? He gave me a little smirk when I got up and asked in front of his desk. What's the deal with these documents I asked for the day before yesterday? His fury was evident as he banged his hand on the papers on his desk. Was there a mistake? A large one, indeed. There are mistakes in the terms of this contract with our client. He thrust the document in my face, and when I looked at it, I saw that it was indeed incorrect. But it was a mistake that I did not remember committing. This client is really important. The paperwork was sent already. Do you know how much money the business will lose if this agreement doesn't work out? Do you, Daniel? The papers I worked with had been altered. It is clear who did it. The manager wants to blame me for the error. I've wounded his pride by pointing out his errors on numerous occasions since my first day. His petty retaliation is this. Do you really believe you can get away with this? Drop on your knees and say you're sorry. You will lose your job if you don't. This is so stupid and childish. It's like conversing with a gigantic kindergartner. I refuse. What if you are left with nothing? I'll go back to work. I am not foolish or lazy enough to participate in such crap. I must verify whether the client received the incorrect documents. If they were, I'll have to deliver the updated documents along with an email apologizing. He interrupted me as I mentally planned my next move. Hold on, Daniel. Are you truly interested in losing your job? The manager kept yelling as I turned away. This company's vice president is my uncle. I could fire you right away. The answer was, go ahead. The manager seemed surprised. You are welcome to fire me if you so choose. I won't be too bothered by it, even if he does something so extreme. I can submit this to the president as part of my investigation, or I can file a lawsuit if it was an unfair dismissal. The manager will most certainly lose his job in such a situation. He can shoot himself in the foot, and I'm not going to stop him. You mean it? You'll wind up homeless. Yes, do as you please. I was about to respond dismissively when a high-pitched voice interrupted. Nancy was looking serious when I looked around. Actually, those documents. I was the one who made the mistakes. Suddenly, she remarked, I did Daniel's work for him because I believed it would help, but I made a mistake. I sincerely apologize. Nancy accepted responsibility for the situation and kept apologizing. What are you doing, Nancy? Shaken for a minute, the manager suddenly changed his target and started screaming at her. Who he screamed at didn't matter as long as he could get his pride back. You think you'll get away with this, you low-level employee? I apologize. I am solely to blame. Just don't fire Daniel, please. You can then resign in his stead. You caused the company losses. You need to show proper remorse. Nancy responded to the manager's oppressive and irrational demands. Yes, I do comprehend. I'll quit the company if Daniel is able to stay. Without hesitation, she resigned, accepting responsibility for an error she did not create and putting herself in danger for a stranger. It's really annoying. I experienced an upheaval in my chest. The pain was nearly unbearable. Supervisor, that is unnecessary. I'll take care of that. All right. You shouldn't be concerned. Why come this far, Daniel? The individual she is defending is only a coworker. She has no justification for being at such a severe disadvantage. Then submit your resignation and get out immediately. Wait a moment. The manager kept yelling, but I cut him off. I reached into my pocket, took out a folded piece of paper, and laid it lightly on his desk. This futile masquerade had to stop. What's this paper? I received our department's most recent accounting records this morning from the accounting department. There are a number of questionable expenses that don't have matching receipts. Are you familiar with them? What? I don't know what you're discussing. These costs aligned with your business travels and customer appointments, according to previous employee schedules. It's merely a coincidence. I have no knowledge about it. Furthermore, there are no records of the actual business discussions, even if the itinerary lists meetings and business travels. All we have are trick records. What are you implying? I gave an honest response to the manager's query. You've been embezzling company funds, haven't you? The manager was clearly in a panic when faced with this information. Additionally, you have been paying for personal costs using work monies. Receipts bearing the company name were discovered. That isn't possible. The vice president took care of it. So the vice president was involved too. Since I found out that the manager was employed through connections, I had a sneaking suspicion. The management was no longer able to deny it after this revelation. You are the one who will be fired, Thomas. The manager fell to his knees immediately after hearing those comments, stunned. There was no place for pity. He had brought himself to ruin. At last, this ridiculous charade was over. Oh, I suppose I was assisted once more. How humiliating for a manager. Nancy smiled sourly at me. Why did you do that? I asked as quietly as I could. Well, I thought it would turn into a big problem, so I wanted to help. The one who would have been in big trouble was you. Emotionally, I yelled. Nancy's eyes became wide with shock. Even I didn't anticipate yelling like that, so it made sense. Why do you attempt to assist others so readily? For what reason are you prepared to give up yourself? Why do you disregard yourself in such a manner? From the depths of my heart, the words poured out like a flood of sorrow. Nancy reminded me of my late father, who sacrificed everything to save others and ultimately lost his life. My father was a bad example that I could never respect. It was hard, depressing, and unpleasant to see hints of his behavior in her actions. Cease. That is not what I desire. Nevertheless, Daniel, I will assist you, she said without hesitation. I may be interfering, but I can't ignore you if you're having problems. I'll give my life to assist you. Why would you do that? She said, because, Daniel, you always look so lonely, with a sympathetic expression. From the beginning, it appeared that you were pushing yourself. You appeared to be going through something, as if you were on the verge of something, and I'm not sure why. You seem to be hiding who you really are because you're carrying some grief. I feel obligated to assist you because of this. I was deeply hurt by what she said. I attempted to bury and forget the feelings and memories they evoked. My father was the one I adored the most. He was always smiling, kind to others, and I loved him unconditionally. He had put my mother through a lot, and I hadn't forgiven him. Even if I don't think my father did everything perfectly, I still admire him. I pretended to be someone else my entire life in order to hide those feelings, but she saw straight through me. I can't forget what she said that day because of it. She quickly discovered what I was frantically trying to conceal. That's why I don't like her. I was summoned to the president's office to report on my investigation 3 days later, on Monday, following the weekend. I gave a brief explanation of how the embezzlement was discovered, how the manager was fired right away, and how the vice president who assisted in its cover-up was severely punished. Yes, the outcomes were largely what was anticipated. You did a fantastic job, Daniel. Did you know about this situation, sir? Not the specifics, please. All I had heard from that subsidiary were some ominous rumors. The president grinned, but there was a hint of unease in his face. So you sent me to investigate because of that. Yes, but it ends today. Although the outcomes were fairly foreseeable, she advanced more quickly than anticipated. How about assessing me? What was the outcome of that? This investigation's main goal was to evaluate my skills. Oh, that. Don't worry about it. That was merely a pretense. I've been aware of you for a while. So why did you give me this task? Actually, I only wanted to give you a difficult assignment. I apologize, Daniel. Expecting a more profound explanation, I furrowed my brow slightly at the president's casual explanation. Daniel, stop being angry. I'm a little irritated, but not angry. You continue to be honest. The president, as evasive as ever, chuckled brightly. In any case, I'll be depending on you as the department head going forward. As agreed upon, I sincerely accept. The president watched me closely as I stated this. Oh, you don't look very content. That isn't accurate. An honest person like you rarely tells lies. Have you changed your mind? Not much. Right now, I don't want to misrepresent how I feel. Yes, I did reveal my actual feelings that day, but that doesn't mean I should stop being who I am. I'll keep working towards advancement in order to thrive in this cutthroat culture. I'll make the decisions I need to and get rid of everything that isn't needed. I'm not going to change. Never. I said this in order to steer clear of the same errors that caused my family a great deal of suffering. The president gave a small smile. I understand. That is exactly like you. There was some implied meaning in his comments, but I ignored it. Well, Daniel, I hope you continue to succeed. I'm grateful. Pardon me. I said goodbye and turned to depart. The president called out to me at that very moment. I have a surprise for you, which I neglected to disclose. I'm excited to visit tomorrow. I walked out of the president's office, perplexed by what he said. The president groaned when he was by himself and pulled a picture out of his desk drawer, remembering. A younger president stood next to another man in the picture. Lost in the past, the president said to himself, "Your son really does resemble you, Miller." After a week and a half away, I went back to work the next day. My absence felt long, even though the inquiry period was brief. I was certain that I had a backlog of work. I kept thinking about the president's final remarks, but I concentrated on returning to my daily schedule. Good morning. My name is Nancy, and it is my first day here. A familiar face met me as soon as I walked into the office. It was someone I didn't like, my old mentor and boss. I'm glad to have met you, Daniel. We reconnected, but this time we were in the opposite roles. Nancy, nice to see you again.